So welcome to the program. Good night and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Dr. Hinds, my first question is to you. What do you think of the upcoming elections in Guyana?
But I think it's a very important election. It's the first election since the debacle of 2020. And I said debacle because the 2020 election was a disaster. There were charges of malpractice by both of the major contestants. And the results of the elections were delayed for 5 months because there was a recount. Often people say, the elections were delayed without saying they were delayed because there was a recount. And a recount is not a normal thing in election. You usually have recounts after the results were announced. But in this instance, you had a recount before the elections, results were announced, and all kinds of stuff came up from the recount that really does not bode well for elections. So this coming election will be a test as to whether we have learned from 2020 or we are going to go down the same road as we did in 2020. You see, both sides, as I said, made accusations. And my view is if both sides are making accusations, both sides are charging that there were attempts at malpractice or there was actual malpractice, then GCOM has a responsibility to take into consideration the charges by both sides and to fix the system, and so that we have a better election in 2020. So this elections in 2020 would be a test as to whether once and for all—
You mean in 2025?
2025, whether once and for all we can have elections where all sides are comfortable with the outcome. And for that to happen, all sides have to be comfortable with the rules. And as you know, Dr. Rose, the opposition are calling for biometrics, a new voters list, an impartial GCOM machinery. The PPP / the government, they're pushing back against those calls. So there is an impasse right now. And so we don't know what is going to happen yet. But I am hoping that we can have those requirements met and that all parties go into the election feeling satisfied with the rules. That is the only way that we are going to get an outcome where all sides would accept.
Okay, there are pending charges against the former CEO, Mr. Lowenfield, the former head for the Region 4, the chair or whatever it is, Mr. Mingo, and Walter Lawrence, among others. I'm not asking you to comment on the case, but do you think those charges are going to resolve before the next election?
At the rate at which they're going, I am not sure that they would.
Okay. So let me turn to you and the WPA. The WPA has been a powerful party in the 70s, late 70s, 80s. Well, late 70s, before Rodney's death in 1980. And since Rodney's death, the WPA it became a splinter group. But my first question to you on this issue, why there's not a particular leader in the WPA? What model has the WPA attempted to have when it have a number of people called leaders? I know Rodney co-opted the party and he seemed to be the leader at the time. But why there's no one leader in the WPA?
I will come to that, Dr. Rose. I want to make a couple of comments.
Okay,
one, you said that the WPA splintered after Rodney's death. That is absolutely untrue. The WPA became strong after Rodney's death. At the time of Rodney's death, the WPA had just become a political party in July of 1979. We didn't have party structures. We just had a leadership because we weren't hoping to become a political party, but the events of 1979 forced us to become a political party. So when Rodney died, we didn't have a proper party. we developed a proper party after Rodney died. I am saying that because I was part of that process. So the normal thing, people say, well, the WPA dead after. It's not true. The WPA became a stronger party after Rodney's death. It became a proper party after Rodney's death. When Rodney died, we were still a party in name only. We were really a pressure group. We were only a party in name. That happened. The real party came into being after Rodney died. So there is this notion in people repeat things over and over, and they come to believe it without talking to those who were part of the process. Now look, when Rodney died, it was a blow to the anti-dictatorial struggle. When you remove a major leader, the struggle takes a hit. And that is what happened. The struggle was slowed down. It took us another 12 years before the removal of the government at that time that we were trying to remove. Some people argue that had Rodney lived, we would have probably removed the government earlier, but what Rodney's death had an impact on the pace of the struggle. But Rodney's death led to strengthening of the WPA. I just want to make that clear once and for all. All right. No, the WPA came out of what we call the New Left of the 1960s and 70s. Right. And the New Left had an attitude to conventional leadership. We felt that conventional leadership, one-man leadership, was against the spirit of a democratic order. And so a lot of the New Left parties, of which the WPA was a part, opted for collective leadership. We started out first with what you call a rotating leadership. Rodney was never elected or appointed the leader of the WPA. Rodney was the leader of the movement, and people, of course, conferred on him the leadership of the WPA. But inside of the WPA, he was not the leader. I want to make that abundantly clear. The WPA had rotating leadership, and that was later changed after Rodney's death to co-leadership. We started off with two co-leaders, and then we had 4 co-leaders, and now we have 3 co-leaders. So we have always embraced a collective leadership model rather than a single leader. But the society has always identified one person who they see as the leader. But inside of the party structures, we never had a single leader.
Now, you said Rodney would have the WPA would have probably replaced the existing government, which was the PNC government. How would have done that?
No, I never said that. I never said it would have replaced. I said it took us 12 years after Rodney's murder for us to remove the PNC via elections.
Okay.
And some people have argued that had Rodney lived, the PNC may have fallen earlier. We can't know that. That's conjecture. So that's what I said. I never said we were replaced.
I got you. So the WPA now, you're the presidential candidate, and I'm sure you've been elected to be the presidential candidate or selected to be the presidential candidate. I don't know which is which, but who is your prime ministerial candidate?
No, we have not gotten to the point of a prime ministerial candidate yet. We recognize that, look, we live in a society that, as much as I said the New Left sought to bring in a new political culture, where we move away from the one-person leadership, one-man leadership, to a more collective leadership. Clearly, the society has not moved in that direction, and the society recognizes the one-man leader, the first among equals. And so what the WPA has done is that we try to remain true